After the bombshell release of the Epstein files over these last few weeks, one conclusion rises above all the noise, and it is staggering. In 2005, just 3 years after New York Magazine famously dubbed Jeffrey Epstein an international monument of mystery, whispers began to grow into allegations. What started as quiet rumors in Palm Beach soon hardened into claims that the billionaire financier had engaged in sexual acts with underage girls. Investigators quickly realized this was no ordinary case. What unfolded would reveal not just abuse, but a system, one that allowed Epstein to evade meaningful accountability for more than a decade, shielded by wealth, influence, and carefully cultivated connections. Tonight, we examine how he maneuvered through scandal after scandal until the moment he could no longer outrun it. Tense music rises, a heavy door slams shut. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in a modest household in Coney Island, the son of a Parks Department employee and a school aide. From an early age, he demonstrated an aptitude for numbers. At Lafayette High School, he joined the math team and stood out for his analytical abilities. He briefly attended Cooper Union and later New York University, studying mathematics and physics, but he never earned a degree. Instead, in the mid-1970s, he took an unconventional leap. Epstein began teaching calculus and physics at the Dalton School, an elite private institution on Manhattan's Upper East Side, where tuition rivaled the cost of college, and the student body included the children of New York's wealthiest families. According to The Guardian, Epstein cultivated a peculiar presence at Dalton. He wore fur coats, gold chains, and open-collared shirts that revealed his chest. He reportedly attended at least one high school party where students were drinking. Former students later recalled that he paid persistent and uncomfortable attention to teenage girls in the hallways and in his classroom. Though he was never formally charged with misconduct during his time there, at least one student reported feeling deeply uneasy and alerted school officials. Ultimately, Dalton let him go, officially citing poor performance. But the damage, or perhaps the opportunity, had already been done. Teaching at Dalton introduced Epstein to the parents of his students, powerful financiers and executives who moved in elite circles. One of them was Alan "Ace" Greenberg, a legendary trader and senior partner at Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns had a particular type it liked to recruit. As insiders put it, they sought men who were P.S.D., poor, smart, and deeply desirous of getting rich quickly. Epstein fit the mold. In 1976, with no college degree and little traditional financial experience, Epstein was hired as a junior assistant. His rise was meteoric. By 1980, just 4 years later, he had become a limited partner at the firm. But that still wasn't enough. In 1981, Epstein left Bear Stearns to form his own financial advisory firm, J. Epstein & Co., and he operated very differently from his peers. He claimed he would accept only clients with a net worth exceeding $1 billion. He positioned himself not as a broker, but as a financial architect, someone who controlled investments, tax strategies, and philanthropic planning. He charged flat fees, avoided commissions, and demanded sweeping authority over his clients' finances, often including power of attorney. If even one of his clients was worth $15 billion, and he charged just half of 1% annually, that alone would generate $75 million per year. Despite overseeing enormous fortunes, Epstein maintained an unusual structure. He employed roughly 20 accountants and more than 150 administrative staff. He surrounded himself with young, attractive female assistants. Yet, according to accounts, only he had full visibility into the financial operations. Only he made the final decisions. And as his wealth grew, so did his ambitions, not just financially but socially. Epstein didn't merely collect clients, he collected proximity to power. He cultivated friendships with scientists, academics, politicians, and cultural elites. He spent time at the Santa Fe Institute and befriended Nobel Prize-winning physicist Murray Gell-Mann. Another Nobel laureate, Gerald Edelman, later acknowledged that Epstein donated millions annually to scientific institutions, reportedly as much as $20 million per year, while peppering researchers with philosophical and scientific questions. He wanted to be seen as a patron of intellect, a man of ideas, a visionary. Politically, he maneuvered across party lines. He worked to build relationships with prominent Democrats and Republicans alike. In 2002, Donald Trump told New York Magazine, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." At the center of Epstein's social world for decades was Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of British media tycoon Robert Maxwell. She maintained her own townhouse just blocks from Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Elegant, socially connected, and deeply embedded in elite society, Maxwell moved fluidly among royalty, politicians, and financiers. Many speculated that their relationship was largely platonic, a strategic alliance more than a romance. Journalist David Patrick Columbia once described them as soulmates who served each other's purposes, even if they were rarely conventional companions. But behind the glittering dinners, the intellectual salons, and the carefully curated friendships, something far darker was unfolding. In March 2005, a 14-year-old girl confided in her parents that something terrible had happened to her. They went to the police. She alleged that Jeffrey Epstein had molested her at his Palm Beach mansion. When detectives interviewed her, she said she had been brought to Epstein's home by 2 other girls. Those girls, when questioned, pointed to 2 more. A pattern quickly emerged. Investigators soon identified dozens of victims, all minor girls, many between the ages of 13 and 16. They described a similar ritual. They were driven by taxi to Epstein's sprawling waterfront estate in Palm Beach. They entered through a side door, sometimes offered snacks in the kitchen. Then they were escorted upstairs to the master bedroom, where Epstein would be waiting. One of his victims, Courtney Wild, just 14 at the time, later said, "Jeffrey preyed on girls who were in a bad way, girls who were basically homeless. He went after girls who he thought no one would listen to, and he was right." Many of the girls were recruited by other victims who had been paid to bring in new recruits. It functioned like a pyramid scheme. Each girl promised money to introduce others. In doing so, Epstein allegedly created a self-sustaining network that allowed him to repeatedly abuse minors, sometimes as many as 3 times a day. As lawsuits mounted, Epstein invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination more than 200 times during depositions. By the time a 53-page federal indictment was prepared, detailing alleged crimes against roughly 40 teenage girls, Epstein, under ordinary circumstances, would have faced life in prison. But ordinary rules did not seem to apply. In 2007, during a breakfast meeting at a Marriott hotel in West Palm Beach, Epstein's legal team negotiated what would become one of the most controversial plea deals in modern American legal history. The U.S. attorney overseeing the case was Alex Acosta, the top federal prosecutor in the Southern District of Florida. Epstein's legal team was formidable. Among them was Jay Lefkowitz, a former colleague of Acosta's from a prestigious Washington, D.C. law firm. The result was an extraordinary non-prosecution agreement. Epstein pleaded guilty, not to federal sex trafficking charges, but to 2 state-level counts of soliciting prostitution from a minor. Spencer Cuven, the attorney representing one of the victims, said bitterly, "She was taken advantage of twice, first by Epstein, and then by the criminal justice system that labeled a 14-year-old girl as a prostitute." Under the deal, Epstein was sentenced to just 13 months in county jail. He was housed not in state prison, but in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail. He was granted work release privileges, allowed to leave 6 days a week for up to 12 hours per day to work at his office. His limousine reportedly picked him up as early as 7:15 a.m., and on some nights he returned close to 11:00 p.m. This was despite official policy, stating that sex offenders were not eligible for such privileges. Even more troubling, the plea agreement contained a clause that granted immunity to Epstein and at least 4 named accomplices from federal prosecution. It also included broad language extending immunity to any potential co-conspirators. And perhaps most devastatingly, the victims were never informed of the plea deal, a direct violation of the Federal Crime Victims' Rights Act, as later ruled by a federal judge in 2019. For years, the full scope of Epstein's alleged conduct from 2001 to 2005, including the number of victims and any possible co-conspirators, remained sealed and shrouded in legal ambiguity. When Alex Acosta was later nominated to serve as Secretary of Labor in 2017, he faced scrutiny over the deal. He defended it by saying that prosecutors believed a plea that guaranteed jail time, sex offender registration, and certain outcomes was better than risking losing at trial. But to many, it felt like justice had not only faltered, it had been negotiated away. And for nearly a decade after serving his minimal sentence, Jeffrey Epstein returned to a life of wealth, travel, and elite social circles. Until finally, the reckoning came. In 2018, the secret that had never truly been a secret resurfaced with force. For years, rumors had lingered, whispered in courtrooms, discussed quietly in newsrooms, and murmured among survivors. Despite the efforts of powerful individuals to contain the damage, the story refused to disappear. That year, investigative journalist Julie K. Brown published a blistering exposé in the Miami Herald. Her reporting meticulously revisited the 2007 plea deal and amplified the voices of victims who had long felt ignored. The article alleged that Epstein had molested or sexually abused approximately 80 girls between 2001 and 2006, far more than previously acknowledged. Brown's investigation reignited national outrage. It dismantled the illusion that Epstein's past was settled history. Survivors spoke publicly. Legal documents were re-examined. Public pressure intensified. This time, Epstein could not quietly retreat behind wealth and influence. Authorities in New York began to scrutinize the case anew, operating under the belief that Epstein's alleged crimes were not confined to his Palm Beach estate. Attention turned to his Manhattan mansion and other properties. On July 6, 2019, federal agents arrested Jeffrey Epstein at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. 2 days later, on July 8, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York unsealed federal charges accusing him of sex trafficking minors. Prosecutors alleged that Epstein had sexually exploited dozens of underage girls in the early 2000s at his residences in Manhattan and Palm Beach. The allegations also named Ghislaine Maxwell as a key associate, accusing her of helping recruit and groom minors for Epstein. Standing before a federal judge, Epstein pleaded not guilty to all charges. His trial was scheduled for June 2020. For years, Epstein had appeared untouchable, his wealth insulating him from lasting consequences. But this time, the legal pressure was different. The charges were federal. The scrutiny was global. The political climate had shifted. Epstein attempted to secure his release. He offered an extraordinary bail package reportedly worth nearly $100 million. He proposed strict house arrest at his Manhattan townhouse, monitored by private security guards he would personally fund. His defense argued that his financial resources made him unlikely to flee. But the court was unconvinced. U.S. District Judge Richard Berman denied bail, stating that the government had established danger to others and to the community by clear and convincing evidence. He added that he doubted any bail conditions could sufficiently mitigate that risk. Epstein was remanded to the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, in Lower Manhattan, a federal facility known for housing high-profile defendants. Then, less than 3 weeks later, the case took a shocking turn. At approximately 6:30 a.m. on July 23, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell. The New York City medical examiner later ruled his death a suicide by hanging. Reports indicated that Epstein had sustained neck injuries. While officials concluded that the injuries were consistent with suicide, questions quickly emerged. Some observers speculated about the possibility of foul play, while others criticized the jail's supervision protocols, noting that Epstein had previously been placed on suicide watch and later removed. The circumstances surrounding his death ignited widespread controversy, conspiracy theories, and public distrust. For the survivors, his death meant something else entirely. It meant that the man they accused would never stand trial, never face cross-examination, never hear a jury's verdict. In July 2020, nearly 1 year after Epstein's death, federal authorities arrested Ghislaine Maxwell. She was charged with conspiracy and sex trafficking offenses related to the alleged recruitment and grooming of minors. Her arrest marked a significant development in the ongoing investigation, signaling that prosecutors were continuing to pursue accountability beyond Epstein himself. Yet for many of the women who say they were harmed, justice has remained incomplete. They live not only with memories of alleged abuse, but with the knowledge that systemic failures allowed it to continue for years. The legal maneuvering, the controversial plea deal, the sealed records, and finally, Epstein's death, all compounded their trauma. Jennifer Arias, who publicly stated that Epstein raped her when she was 15, issued a statement after his death that captured the anguish of many survivors. We have to live with the scars of his actions for the rest of our lives, while he will never face the consequences of the crimes he committed, the pain and trauma.